Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Cardboard Critics podcast. As always, I'm Mr. Hollywood. That's Joe Nasty. To my right, it is past 10 p.m. for us here on the West Coast. We are absolutely exhausted. I am drinking a watermelon, great flavor by the way, watermelon Red Bull.
That's the actual flavor?
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Red Bull Red.
Is that like Mountain Dew Code Red?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're gonna be tweaking soon.
I'm feeling good. I'm starting to feel good. Was not feeling good a minute ago.
You look good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But a lot going on in the world of sports and sports cards. Of course, the Stanley Cup wrapped up, and thank the Lord the Panthers did not blow that one.
Right.
And we're going to start there. So the Florida Panthers started this series up 3-0. What happened next? Well, the Oilers rattled off 3 straight to force a Game 7, only the 9th team to force that, and they fell just short of becoming the first team since the 42 Canadiens to complete the comeback before the NHL merger. Jonas, what were your thoughts on the end of what was a crazy Stanley Cup?
Yeah, this was definitely one to remember for all time. Edmonton did just enough to make it historically interesting, and Florida did just enough to not historically having one of the most epic choke jobs we've seen in sports history. Now, you and I were speaking right after we finished filming last week, and you're saying, I kind of want Edmonton to win, or you said that. I wanted Florida to win. I find it hilarious that no Canadian team has won since 1993. But your point was you wanted to see... I know, isn't that remarkable?
Ouch to the Canadian viewers. We do have a few Canadian viewers.
Shout out Canada, America's hat. I do love the Great White North. Vancouver, we went there in 2008.
We
Gorgeous.
did.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, amazing.
You look at these NHL rosters. They are Canadian national teams. But yet, just because they're from a Canadian city means they just can't win. You said, though, you wanted McDavid to have that legendary moment, that signature moment that would put him over the top as this generation's player.
This was it.
And in my opinion, I do think he had a legendary notch on his belt, becoming, let me check the notes, yes, the 6th player ever to win the Conn Smythe Trophy as a losing player, as a player who did not win the Stanley Cup Finals. The first since, and I remember this vividly, since Jean-Sébastien Giguère with the Mighty Ducks.
Yep.
And I had to take the notes. I thought it was 2005. It was 2003. Good Lord. When the Ducks lost to the New Jersey Devils. I remember Jean-Sébastien Giguère and that butterfly style carrying the Mighty Ducks all the way to a Stanley Cup Game 7.
Yeah.
I was like, has anyone actually won the Conn Smythe as a loser since then? And no, it was J.S. Giguère since then. Jean-Sébastien Giguère, by the way, with that name, clearly from Birmingham, Alabama, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, an incredible series. If only the cup could talk, right? I saw Kachuk took it into the ocean with him.
Straight into the Atlantic.
So I saw someone eating spaghetti out of it. I mean, if that thing could talk, I mean, good Lord.
Isn't it funny that
Lord Stanley.
They quite literally have white glove treatment for the Stanley Cup. The guys as careful as possible.
And then it just gets destroyed.
And then a team wins, they're like, screw it, and they throw it off of buildings and stuff.
Well, I mean, it's a legitimate job that to get the dents out and the scratches out of it. It's a full-time job, the guy who travels with that cup.
Throw it with the white hair.
Yeah. But we're going to move on to our baseball recap. A decent amount happening in the baseball world this week. The Yankees and the Orioles are now tied atop the AL East. That's kind of breaking news.
Very much so.
Also, the Astros and the Mets are hot. Astros are within 4,
3.5.
I believe, of the Mariners now. And let's be honest, maybe we were all rooting for the Astros to not make the playoffs finally. I know we were. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. But here we are. So what do you think so far as we head into... We're starting to get in towards the All-Star break.
Yeah, the rosters will be revealed this week. We did literally reach the midway point of the baseball season mathematically. Cleveland had a big series in Kansas City where they essentially put the division to bed. Stephen Kwan and the Guardians are a pretty remarkable story, actually, the way they've been hitting. We're used to the Terry Francona Guardians/Indians pitching their way to success. Not this year, not this Cleveland squad. You mentioned it, the Astros are starting to roar. They're creeping. They are one game over 500 now. They are sniffing down. I know. I agree. The Mariners can see them in their rearview mirror. The Mariners cannot hit. Their pitching is amazing.
No,
but they cannot
doesn't help
hit.
that J-Rod has not been good this year.
Exactly. So the AL Central is becoming yet another division that is becoming a joke, and we have to rely now on the AL West as well as the AL East.
Right. But as we reach towards the halfway point, that also opens things up to a lot of trade talk.
Yes.
So we do have a lot of trade talk, and they're centering around really a few players and a few teams. We're really looking at the White Sox.
Yes.
We're looking at the Rays, the Angels. We were looking at the Mets up until the last week or so.
Yeah.
We've heard some rumblings out of the Tigers as well. Let's start with Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. Now, there's a lot of teams that could use both of these players.
Yes.
Or either or. Obviously, Crochet, young lefty, still with, I think, 3 years of team control still. Huge fastball.
Yes.
Good off-speed stuff as well. I think he has more, I think strikeouts per 9, I think he leads all of baseball, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it was something ridiculous, like 140 strikeouts through 80-something innings. It's crazy.
Right.
And then, of course, Luis Robert, who does have 2 more years, 2.5 years of contract still remaining. I believe it's at 20 or so million a year. Had a breakout year last year, 38 homers, I think. Who do you think maybe fits this bill?
Well, Garrett Crochet is definitely the name of the trade deadline. There's always a name that people zero in on and essentially becomes the prize of the trade market. A few years ago was obviously Max Scherzer. We've seen people. I don't need to go over it. People know. Like every year, a name gets targeted.
Scherzer, Turner,
Yes,
Soto.
exactly. Soto, exactly. Soto a few years ago was the name. The surprising one to me is, and you said the Tigers, and I know you said it begrudgingly, but I did see a report this week about a legitimate young stud of a starter in Tarek Skubal. Now, that's a name that a lot of people may not be really familiar with, but this kid's good. And this is a kid that I first heard of actually on MLB The Show. And when you do your career mode, I always got drafted to the Tigers, and I would be in the minors. And
You have that game?
Yeah, well, it's from like the 2020 version. But I thought Tarek Skubal was a make-a-player name. And then lo and behold, a few years later, here he is as the ace of the Detroit Tigers. I would be shocked. It's going to have to be in an unbelievable package like UPS to get Tarek Skubal off of the Tigers. But there's smoke, so at least there's burning embers.
Yeah, I think Tarek Skubal is, outside of his last start, which I think was a absolute disaster, he was the front runner for the AL Cy Young.
He's that good.
He's that good. I mean, that kid is unbelievable. I just can't see them trading him. I just can't.
I don't either.
I think Luis Robert, Garrett Crochet, and Randy Arozarena from the Rays are more likely candidates. Who do I think they fit personally? I think Crochet fits really well with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Short, a lot of arms. Kershaw, I think, just got shut down again on his rehab assignment. Obviously, they're still short other arms as well with Yamamoto on the shelf now.
Yep.
Luis Robert, I think, still fits with the Phillies.
Do you?
The best. Yeah, I do.
The team with the best record in the National League.
A team with the best record in the National League. But let's be honest, for Philadelphia, they're in a position where this is kind of make it or break it. And at the end of the day, this is an arms race. Because the Phillies know if the Phillies don't go out and get Luis Robert, look, the White Sox are asking for a huge package for Luis Robert, something similar to Soto, right? As they should-ish. I mean, it's that Soto deal was such a joke compared, looking back on it in hindsight. But I think if the Yankees don't get him, or the Phillies don't get him, or the Dodgers don't get him, I mean, he's going to go somewhere where his bat is needed in the playoffs. And you don't want a team that you might have to face to go out and get that bat, right? I mean, look at the Braves.
Yep, that was going to be my team.
Braves is another one that could use a guy like Luis Robert.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind for Luis Robert is you lose Ronald Acuna, a speedy, power-hitting right-handed bat. Well, gee, there's a Cuban out in Chicago. And the thing about the Braves is the lineup's just not performing right now. Matt Olson, Austin Riley, talking about a right-handed bat and Austin Riley. They're not performing as their numbers say they should. You mentioned the Dodgers. People are talking about Crochet, but they have arms. And it's more about they need to be ready for October.
Right.
The name I think is really important for them is Luis Rengifo. They got Kevin Biggio, who's an abject failure. I think he's a .4 WAR since they got him. I'd actually be surprised if he's a positive WAR. So that means he's barely league average. Max Muncy is nowhere to be seen for any time soon. And people talk about the outfield, but they have a lot of outfielders. They put Miguel Vargas out there. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of arms. You may not like the names, but they have a lot of arms. Remember, Rengifo's a guy they wanted in 2020. He was part of the Jock Peterson, Ross Stripling trade they got nixed. Mm-hmm. So a guy they wanted, a guy who's playing very well and plays multiple positions. I think he fits everything that they need right now.
Yeah, he's a guy that the Dodgers tried to get in Kike Hernandez, right? He's a super utility guy. Mm-hmm. He's the Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez project that didn't work out for the Dodgers thus far this year. Luis Rengifo fills all those gaps.
Precisely.
So I get that. But I also do think wherever Luis Robert goes or Randy Arozarena goes, once one of those outfield chips falls, I think the other one is going to another team in the same league.
Yeah, arms race.
So if he goes to the Phillies, I see it more of a Dodgers Braves for the next guy. If he goes to the Yankees, I see it more as the Mariners. Maybe I could even see the Orioles getting in there and trying to get another big bat. Sure. But we're going to move on to our hobby news. We had a big week of hobby news. PSA has announced grader notes. What is that? Well, they're basically putting out a report card that tells you now why your card graded a certain way. Did you get docked on centering? Did you get docked on corners? Did you get docked on edges, surface? What was it? Previously, we just had to send them in and surprise, you got a 8. WTF, why did I get an 8?
What the 4?
What the 4? I mean, if you're getting a 4.
I know.
Yikes. But, big time news. Obviously, Beckett has had subgrades for a long time, which is what people paid extra for, so that they could see exactly what they were getting docked for. Mm-hmm. But this from PSA is big time news. What do you think about it?
I think in all manners of life, whether it be your cards from PSA, whether it be your interpersonal relationships, whether it be, everything. I think transparency is anything you can ask for, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to sending it in and being like, an 8, now you get the report card, and it says, well, you got an 8 because the edges are frayed, my good dude. So I think that's fine. I mentioned it to you right before we hopped on. The process before was basically you send it in to a faceless entity. You got it back. Who knows what was really happening? Now, I think it would be really cool if they send back the name of the person who did it as well. Like Jeff thought this was a 7. Well, thanks, Jeff. I wish I'd gone to Steven because he had graded Evan's card as a 9. So I think that would be a good step as well. But I'm a big transparency guy, so I think this is really nice.
Yeah, I think this is a big-time move. And furthermore, I think this is a big-time strategic move also from PSA to kind of really force Beckett into a corner. As we all know, Beckett has really struggled competition-wise with PSA and SGC. SGC and PSA are by far grading more cards than Beckett is at this point. And I think the reason is because if you want subgrades, if you want to know what's wrong with your cards through Beckett, you got to pay extra for subgrades.
Oh,
number 1.
Interesting.
Number 2, Beckett does not issue 10s. They issue 10s, but it needs to be pristine in order to get a gold label 10. So a PSA 10 is the equivalent of a Beckett 9.5. So Beckett's 9.5 is what they consider gem mint. PSA and SGC consider a gem mint a 10. So even if your card is gem mint, you are not getting a 10 from Beckett unless at least the majority of the categories all grade 10s, which they are so unbelievably strict on. And Beckett 10s are worth more than PSA 10s, but the odds of you getting it are less than 1% of the PSA 10s get a Beckett 10. So let's just let that sink in. They're already not selling a whole lot of slabs these days. PSA is now taking the only thing that separates them, which is being able to see what the problem is. Look, unless Beckett completely overhauls their system and introduces the Beckett Gem Mint 10 and gets rid of the 9.5s and everyone resubmits their 9.5s into Beckett and they reslab them as 10s, I think they've got no shot.
Ooh.
Absolutely no shot, and that's why it's such big news. But we're going to move into the cards that have been driving markets this week, and no surprise, our first one, it's Bronny James.
Bronny.
Okay? The Lakers drafted him second round, 55th overall out of USC, of course. Of course, as you all know, Bronny James averaged a whopping 4 points.
He was 6.1.
6.1?
I think so.
It was that many?
Yeah.
Bronny James averaged 6.1 points a game at
I might
SC.
be thinking about his height.
I'll give him the
actually.
benefit of the doubt. I don't even think he's 6 feet.
I think he's listed 6'1", but I don't think he
Okay,
actually
yeah.
is.
Without shoes, I don't think he is. But Bronny James, his 2023 Bowman Chrome University first card, was up 68% this week. Mm-hmm. It is selling for, on average, about $50 a card.
All right.
It's for a PSA 10, but it's a base card, right? Obviously, all the talk was LeBron becoming a free agent. This was, and then, obviously we had this whole Rob Pelinka calling, or Clutch Sports calling all these other teams to say,
Don't do it.
Do not draft him, or we'll send him to Australia, whatever, But here we are, Bronny James, hot card of the week. I got a lot of ammo on this one, but I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Bronny James and his card, which is now it's now a $50 base card?
Well, you know why teams didn't, they heard that, they're like, okay, Rich Paul, sounds good. We weren't drafting him anyways, right?
Right.
So, look, this sounds like a major D comment, but the facts are this: if you're going to make your kid be drafted 55th overall in a position where you can find value in the second round, then you're opening it all up to this kind of criticism. Let me start by saying this. I do think it's beautiful what he's doing for his family. I think there's nothing wrong for a father trying to help his kids as much as possible. I think all the points people make about parents helping out their kids in any way that they can, and you hear about ins, and I don't want to use nepotism per se, but it's not an unnovel concept in any sense, in any business. But this is the NBA, and I'm just more shocked that it's the Lakers. If this was happening to the Clippers, which have no history, which have no sense of what it takes to win, sure. But this is one of the strongest brands in world sports. And they've been bent over a barrel by one person. Granted, one of the greatest players we've ever seen. But I just find it remarkable. Yes, Bronny had the health scare at the beginning of the USC season. Yes, there's athletic ability in there. But he wasn't a top performer on his Sierra Canyon team. He wasn't anything. Maybe if he's even a third-team All-Pac-12 player, then you're okay, this is a guy who's shown spurts. But this is a guy who's basically a Conference USA level type of player that you drafted 55th overall. So, this is probably the only card of value in his NBA career. Enjoy it while you can. That's my commentary.
I agree with you. My hot take on this, I hate this. I'll
That's
use,
a hot take.
No, I'll use the word because
That's a strong word.
obviously we've lived our whole lives in Los Angeles.
We have.
I'm a huge Lakers fan. Okay?
I'm a bit more cynical these days. I am.
This is, if this isn't bending the fan base over a barrel for one guy, I get it. It's LeBron James. I get it. But look, the Lakers are built on one thing and one thing only, and that is winning championships and putting banners up in the rafters.
Yeah.
Okay? This team, as constructed, has realistically had no chance. None the past couple years.
No, not since the bubble.
Yeah, not since the bubble. You then go and draft your own son who has zero. And I'll look into the camera and say it. Bronny James, you have zero business being in the NBA.
Right now.
Right now. Okay? Now, granted, this draft class was horrible.
Nothing.
This was a really bad draft class. But I'm sorry, but I lost a lot of respect for this Lakers organization and the way that Rob Pelinka and the rest of the organization is running this whole... It's a circus at this point.
Oh, yeah.
It's a LeBron James circus, and we don't care anymore how good the team is, clearly, right?
No, truly.
But... here we are. I guess for the next couple years until LeBron retires, I'll be a Clipper fan or something.
Well, they're not going anywhere.
Although the Clippers just lost Paul George, so
Well, let me say this. Also, remember, LeBron James just got his podcast partner hired as the head coach.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, as if that's not fishy either.
Right. So here's the thing. The whole thing was like, draft my kid or I'm not coming back. As like a true Laker fan, would you have been overly disappointed if actually LeBron James didn't come back to the Lakers?
No.
Right. So like, what's the big deal here? Like, is a team with a 41, 42-year-old LeBron James, Mr. Glass, Anthony Davis, and yeah, maybe they get Klay Thompson or Brooke Lopez or what is that?
Ain't gonna help.
Is that gonna propel them from 6th in the West?
They still ain't close to the Wolves, the Nuggets,
No.
the Grizzlies.
The
even at
Mavs aren't
full
going
strength.
anywhere.
Mavs, yeah, not even close. But we're going to move on to our...
Thunder.
Thunder even. We're going to move on to our second hot card of the week, and it is Cleveland Guardians outfielder Jean-Kenzie Noel. The young outfielder hit 112 home runs in the minor leagues. He got called up to the majors just last week. He homered in his very first at-bat. This is a big dude.
Yes.
This dude mashes big time. His 2022 Bowman Chrome Prospect autograph card, which we are looking at right now, his Chrome Prospect first autograph, is up 40% over the past week. 20 of the cards have sold at $35 in raw condition. Just $35 in raw condition for a Bowman first of a guy who has the potential to hit maybe 30 homers a year.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy. What are your thoughts on Noel so far?
Yeah, he hit one of the more remarkable home runs I've ever seen. Actually, yesterday, he hit the hardest home run in Cleveland Guardians history in the StatCast era.
Guardians history, including the Indians?
Cleveland franchise history. Because the StatCast era goes back to 2015, and they were still the Chief Wahoos when they made the World Series in 2016.
Yeah.
115 miles per hour off the bat. It curved so much around the left field foul pole that it actually was in a section. People thought it was foul because it ended up in a section at Kauffman Stadium that was just about back in foul territory. That's how much whip and speed he got on this thing.
Boomerang.
Essentially, yeah. If it hadn't hit the seats, it was coming right back for home plate. Look, this is a big power, big strikeout guy, which are sort of a dime a dozen, especially in today's 3 true outcomes style of baseball: walks, home runs, or strikeouts. He came in as, I believe, the 26th overall prospect in the Cleveland system, not in baseball, in the Cleveland system. So
that low?
Yes, that's what surprised me as well. They call him Big Christmas because of the last name. He's a fun prospect. It's a wacky name. He's got prodigious power, but he's gonna have to make contact with the ball to have staying power.
Yeah, I like this kid, and I'll tell you why.
I like him.
I'll tell you why I like his cards and his cards value.
Okay.
He's up 40% in the last week or so, right? This is a $35. Granted, it's raw. This is a $35 first Bowman autograph for a guy whose team is running away with the division. Mm-hmm. They more than likely will have a good shot at October. And we know how October goes. Be a superpower bat and either strike out like 30 times in a span of 3 weeks, or you pull a Randy Arozarena or a Corey Seager and kind of carry your team deep in the playoffs. And for $35, guys, I think this is still a great deal for raw first Bowman autographs in terms of someone who has the potential for a lot of pop. He's hit a couple homers already. I know it's a super tiny sample size so far, but young Kenzie Noel, he's a buy. His cards are moving up. And now we're going to move into our cold cards for the week. And we're going to start this week's cold cards with kind of a combination of a lot of cards, but it's really the entire Donruss Optic set of Victor Wembanyama. And now, this is kind of to be expected. Optic was a set that released a couple weeks ago, and as we see every time, there's always hype when something's new, right? Now that the cards are not new, all of Wemby's cards and inserts out of that set are coming down. We look at his White Hot Rookies holo, as well as his Rising Suns holo, his Pink Hyper, his Splash holo. All of those cards are down between 57 and 65% in the past week. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is, let's be honest, I think this is normal for stuff to correct like this.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if Victor Wembanyama does not get hurt, these cards will all be way, way more expensive than they are now. I think his PSA 10 base prism is now down to $120 a card. That was a $400+ card 4 months ago. And I know it seems like we talk Wemby like every other week, but let's be honest, he is the basketball hobby right now. He just is.
For sure.
And that's crazy to say considering his team was one of the worst teams in the NBA, and we just finished the NBA Finals, but who gives a crap about what happened in the NBA season this year, honestly, aside from Wemby. But your thoughts on all of Wemby's cards, and I just want your thoughts more on kind of the pattern that we see on these types of cards going up when they initially release and then coming down.
Yeah. It's all very reactionary, isn't it? I mean, especially...
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise. The human nature is reactionary. Who knew? Also, San Antonio Spurs just today signed Chris Paul. Makes a difference for Wembanyama's career? Who knows? It's all regressing, right? His prices, his everything was up in the stratosphere. And it's regressing more, if not to the mean, at least something that's a bit more palatable. But I'm with you. He is the NBA future. He is basketball's future. And I don't know if you saw him working with Team France the other day ahead of the Olympics. There's a lot of length. There's a lot of Eiffel Towers out there for Team France. It's all reactionary. The NBA season just ended. The draft just ended, and no one cared about it. Do it now, because no one's talking or caring about the NBA, which it probably will come back around with the Olympics as well. So this is the period as we speak right now.
Yeah. As long as France doesn't win the gold medal,
they won't.
Which they won't, let's be honest.
They won't. It's not a terrible team, but they won't.
No. So I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Wemby cards will bottom somewhere around August. like beginning of August, maybe end of July.
Honestly, probably
August.
September. NFL starts, and we're still a month from training camp. Yeah.
NFL starts, but things start to pick up maybe a few weeks or a month before the season starts. But I really think August is the time that these cards are really going to hit as low as they're going to get.
Ever.
For at least for this season.
I'm saying ever,
Right?
I believe.
Well, unless he gets hurt, right? Then they'll
Yeah.
crash and burn. But, but I'm with you. This dude is just way too talented to not have something of his sitting in your investment cabinet, we'll say. But we're going to move on to our second cold card of the week, and it is the 2000. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Recent.
Yeah, recent. But it's the 2024 Topps Series 2 super short print of Jackson Holiday, that fun face card with the fun face written on the butt of the barrel, the knob. Thank you. It's late.
You're doing great.
I need a Red Bull just to get through this, But that card, both the normal SP variation as well as his fun face variation are down 33% for the SP and 18.6% for the fun face variation. The fun face card now, it was kind of a $400 card. It's now sitting at $329, and then the normal short print is a $92 card, as a $61 card, was sitting at $92 just last week. Jackson Holiday, of course, was sent back down to Norfolk. He got hurt, came off the DL though. He's back, I believe.
Yes.
And he has been raking once again at AAA. Surprise, surprise. I know you love this card just because of the Billy Ripken.
I do.
Just because of the Billy Ripken card. But what do you? I know we talked about this card already, but the market. Look, we get a lot of trends that repeat themselves, and here we are talking about a card that was hot a couple weeks ago. It's cold now. Do you have any different thoughts on the Jackson Holiday super short prints out of Series 2?
I don't. Here's the thing. He hasn't homered since June 8th. So, yes, he is hitting in AAA. His numbers aren't like, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's an OPS. It's an OPS in the 800s, which, for those of you that are not familiar, 700 is the average for OPS. So when you see an OPS of 800, 900, 1,000, that's very good, excellent all-star type.
But it was 1,000.
It was, and he's been an 1,000 OPS guy in the minors before. So he's having an adjustment year. He's having a little bit of a shock value as he's gone up and down the major league elevator.
Do you think this card falls more?
Depends. You better hit another home run soon, I'll say that. I think people are taking a look at what he's doing in the minors with it being good but not fantabulous. And so it could drop a smidge more, yeah.
I think this card falls more, and I think it falls somewhat significantly more. I think we see this card closer to the $200 mark in my opinion, but honestly, it really comes down to whether he gets called up again this year.
Sure.
Which
I don't think he's going to.
I'm not sure that he would. I think the Orioles are probably more likely to stick with what they've got. They've obviously got a good thing going. Mm-hmm. And like we talked about earlier, arms race in the AL. If the Yankees go out and get someone, I see the Orioles trying to match and kind of using a Heston Kierstad type guy to try and make a deal happen and bring someone in that's a proven talent and give Jackson Holiday. He's 20 years old. Give the kid another year in the minors, and I see this card dropping another $100, another $150 maybe. I think it'll be $150 so card in a few weeks, but I do
think the Orioles, and I was watching them tonight, and like they're mashing all these home runs, but you get to the playoffs and you look at the lineup. I think I'm going to say something that's weird, but I think they're a bat away, which is weird for a team that mashes. But I think they need a bat that's like ready for October.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Gunner's amazing, but he's still a child. Adley's amazing, but he's still a child. Are you going to rely on Cowser? Are you going to rely on Kierstad? Are you going to rely on... Santander's actually pretty amazing.
Yes.
But O'Hearn will strike out a lot. Are you So Holiday comes up to replace Mateo at second base. that's the spot. So he's got between now and the end of the season to show that he's ready to replace Mateo.
Yeah, I mean, a Robert in a Rosarena, a Mike Trout.
Oh my God.
Could be a crazy, crazy fit for the Orioles. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it would be a crazy fit. You're right.
Well, you don't think Mike Trout has any chance of being moved?
Not this year.
No?
Not with the injury worries still.
Okay.
If he was playing right now, I would say probably.
And there's no chance that Artie Moreno and the Angels are going to eat a single dollar of that contract, I can tell you that.
Artie the one-man party? No.
Yeah. But we're going to move into our last segment, and that is our investment card of the week. And
Timing.
Timing. This week we are talking about Rangers outfielder Wyatt Langford. Of course, drafted in the MLB draft just last year. Had a crazy spring training, which allowed him to make the team. I don't know how many times someone has ever made the team out of spring without even playing a game.
Not often. Not anymore, at least.
In the minors. But Wyatt Langford's 2023 Bowman Draft first chrome autograph in a PSA 10 is down 48.9% since the season started. It is a $499 card. This was a card that was going for $1,000 around opening day. It is now a $500 card in a PSA 10. What has Wyatt Langford done since coming back off the DL in June? He has hit .283. He has hit 2 home runs, but 18 RBIs in the month of June to go along with 6 stolen bases, really coming into his own, and did something very historic tonight.
Right.
Take it away, Jonas. What did Wyatt Langford do, and what do you think of his card at 500 dineros?
I think it's too much, but so we are your go-to show for all things timing. We hit the air as Mookie Betts gets hit in the hand. We hit the air as Ronald Acuna gets hurt. And you plan ahead, say, here's your investment card of the week. I think we should talk about Wyatt Langford. And just before we hit the air, all he did was go on Sunday Night Baseball and hit for the first cycle of the 2024 Major League Baseball season. I watched the broadcast, as I just said, and ESPN hit the airwaves talking about Wyatt Langford and how the Rangers are saying, oh, his power is going to come around. He's only got 2 home runs all this year. You know, just came out of Florida. And then he hit for the cycle tonight. In Baltimore, of all places, with the Baltimore out there in left field. I didn't realize it was 400 feet away. Good Lord. Look, the kid is good. As you said, as I said, as ESPN said, just a year ago. This time last year, he had just finished the College World Series playing for Florida. He was getting ready to get drafted, I think 4th overall, round 1, by the Texas Rangers. Yeah, let the kid get used to things. Let the kid certainly adjust to the adjustments on him. No one knew of him in spring training. And then let's see. But for $500 for a guy who's only hit 3 home runs for an entire year, a bit much. A bit much. Even if he's a top prospect and could potentially be amazing.
I'm with you. I know this was a $1,000 card, and I'm sure some of you guys paid $1,000 for it. First week of the season, and it's a $500 card now. Let's just put this into perspective, okay? Adley Rutschman, his first Bowman Chrome autograph in a PSA 10, I believe, is about $800.
Okay.
Gunnar Henderson, same card, is about $1,000.
And they're both stars.
And they are bona fide stars.
Yes.
And have now been bona fide stars for multiple years. Bobby Witt, Julio Rodriguez, both of those cards into the thousands as well. $500 for Wyatt Langford. Look, you're just not, at the end of the day, you're really just not sexy to the hobby unless you are mashing the long ball. You just have to mash the long ball. That's just how it is. People don't want to buy pitchers. People don't want to buy Stephen Kwan. I mean, look, I know Stephen Kwan's an unbelievable hitter, and his cards have actually been doing really, really.
He's opened up the swing because he's hitting more homers.
Yeah, well, Stephen Kwan's cards actually have done very well the past couple weeks. They've done very well, but at the end of the day, Stephen Kwan's first Bowman autograph will never, ever be the same price as a first Bowman autograph of a guy who hits 300 and is going to hit 30 homers. It's just not going to happen. So until Wyatt Langford's power translates consistently to Major League pitching, I still think $500 for a PSA 10 is too much for this card.
You're not going to hit the Kwan?
I could hit a Kwan, but Wyatt Langford, we bring it up in our investment card portion. We're not always recommending to invest in a card when we talk about investment card of the week. It's just this one has kind of picked up again in the last couple days or last couple weeks because his performance has been so good this past month. But that'll do it for us on a short week here on the Cardboard Critics podcast. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode, drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below. So until next time, I'm Mr. Hollywood. That's Jonas. And we'll see you next time right back here at Hollywood Rips.
No, you do it.
Why is it always me?
Because you're so good at it.
Well, I want
Mr. Hollywood's out.
Mr. Hollywood, out.